Are there any amendments to the agenda? Any amendments, Kevin?
I would make a motion that we amend the agenda to table item H, considering the resolution supporting the Zionsville School System referendum.
Actually, would add under 2C to table that at this time.
Which one should I do?
2C.
As well as 8D, and then that came up within just the last hour.
All right. So we have a motion to table 2C, 8D, and 8H.
Second.
We got a second?
Did you make the motion? Okay.
So we've got a motion that's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Agenda is amended.
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for claims, expenses town, revenues town, utility claims, renewable water, wastewater, and also item 2B, the 9/16/2015 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
All right. We have a motion that's been seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion's adopted. All right. We only have one person who has signed up to speak, and that is on our agenda. So we will wait until that time. It's the seamless docks 7C. And that's Brad Botter. Is there anyone else here from the public who would like to speak on anything related to the town? All right, we'll move on to the clerk treasurer report. Are there any questions from the council? Any? All right, we'll move on to item number 5, department reports. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to item number 6, presentations. And first up, we have Chief Westridge for a presentation on coin truck purchase.
present to you tonight our proposal for the potential purpose of a quint. Hopefully you had time to look over the presentation that was attached to the agenda. If not, we'll go over it briefly here, and please stop me if you have any questions as we go through this. First off, I just want to give a quick briefing of our current apparatus inventory. This is engine 71. It is a 2010 Pierce Freightliner. Ladder 71, our primary ladder is a 2011 Pierce Arrow with a 100-foot ladder. This is our brand new grass rig purchased at the end of last year for this year. Our ambulance soon to be in service at the end of this year. This is engine 72. This is the one we're talking about replacing with a quint apparatus, and this engine subsequently would go into our reserve status as a 2004. Engine 73, this was purchased quite a few years ago from Pike Township. It's a 1989 truck. It's definitely got some age. It's still a solid truck, but we're transitioning it into utilizing it as a training engine. It's not necessarily worth putting the money into it to get it to pass its pump test or whatever, but we could utilize it efficiently at the Boone County Training Grounds as a training engine to have there, so we don't completely take our trucks out of service while we're there. A quick definition of a quint: you see it actually has 5 functions, which makes it qualify as a quint. Essentially, it's a fire engine with a big ladder on top. These are some quints of style that we're looking to purchase. You'll notice it's a single axle, not a tandem axle like our larger ladder we have. This allows for it to function more as an engine than a ladder per se, and ease to get around. Quint job functions: they allow for an apparatus to perform multiple services or tactical functions. If I can figure out how to work this mouse. It can respond as an engine company, or it can respond as a ladder company. You'll see that the functions of each company are up there. With supplemental staffing, a quint can provide certain operational functions of both the engine company and the ladder company at the same time. In the needs assessment, like I mentioned, we're designing to replace engine 72. This will provide us for a second aerial device. It'll provide us for a backup aerial device if one happens to be down for maintenance. And it provides for an increase in our ISO points. Currently, the ISO uses a 100-point scale to classify our community's PPC, or public protection classification. Right now, we're sitting at a 66.23 out of 100, which gives us our 4x4X rating. 70 points is what's needed to lower it to a 3x, which we're working towards. It would not be enough points to lower the rating purchasing this quint, but it would increase our points overall in the ladder portion of the point system. And as we work to increase other areas of our services, we're working towards that rating lowering even further. ISO defines the need for a ladder as having a response area of 5 buildings that are 3 stories or 35 foot in height or more. They have 5 buildings that have needed fire flow greater than 3,500 gallons per minute, or any combination thereof. Essentially, on a basic count, our Station 71 district has over 10 buildings, with plenty more coming in the form of warehouse industrial. And Station 72's district has well over 60 buildings, and as we all know, plenty more to come. Placing the quint at Station 72 would allow for the following advantages. It would allow for Engine 71 to be the first new engine company in 71's district, and followed up with Engine 72, and that would arrive and it would act as the ladder company. Vice versa, if it's in Engine 72's district, right now the primary function would be as an engine company, and the ladder 71 that we currently have being the ladder company. On top of the needs assessment, we did a quick financial analysis. The figures in red are what we're shooting for. which would be a 10-year equipment lease with an estimated annual payment of $87,923. This is all based off of a $750,000 purchase price. Any questions I can address?
Oddball first question, you said only single axle. What height, I know our current ladder is 100 foot, what would this be about?
Anywhere from 75 to 78 feet. Different manufacturers differ a couple feet here or there, but essentially one of the ones we're looking at in favor of is the 78-foot ladder.
Do you have a particular brand that you think is more reliable than others, or something that you're thinking would be the one that you want to get?
We've looked at multiple apparatus companies, and what we're hoping to do is make this a special purchase. And with a special purchase, meaning buying a demo apparatus, one that's been offline, it's still a custom apparatus, but it allows us that big price break rather than customizing it, buying it off the line, and waiting over a year for it to be, or up to a year around that time frame for it to be constructed. There are very few demos out there right now for what we are looking for. We have found two, and that's between E1 and Pierce.
Has the fire board given approval for this?
The fire board did not meet this month to discuss it.
Do you need approval from the council now, or is this just a presentation of what you're looking at?
That is completely up to you guys. Obviously, we would like to move it as quickly as possible.
Too many questions.
Mhm.
So one is the engine that this would be replacing, would it not be sold? Do you really need to have another apparatus in reserve? And the second is the $88,000 payment. When would that begin? And is it accounted for in the budget, or how would it be covered?
Okay, let me work backwards here. The payment would begin basically a year after the lease starts. Let's say we initiated the lease this month, the first payment wouldn't be due until October of 2016. The payment we are looking for in discussions with DAX about utilizing the town's operating budget, in a sense, using a couple lines that haven't been used to make the apparatus payment. The reserve engine question. Currently, we try to run a fire engine out of both stations, so we have each district, north and south, covered with a fire apparatus. If one of our apparatus goes down at this point, we are down to one fire engine that we can respond with, which is unacceptable. Having a reserve in basically our possession would allow us, when one goes in for maintenance, we have one that's completely equipped or mostly equipped, where we can put the rest of the equipment on from the engine that's out of service, and we're back to having our two fire engines to respond. Currently, to date, we have spent over $21,000 in repairs for that engine alone. Now, that included a top-down rebuild of the motor. Normally, you replace engines every 10 to 15 years, depending on its use. We're right at that 11-year mark. We can get several years out of it as a reserve and still get our money's worth of having the apparatus before we cycle it through. But if we keep running it as a first due, I feel we're going to just create more expenditures than what the engine's actually worth.
Would it be worth trading in that 89 gears to reduce it, or is that not going to?
The most, nobody will take the 89 Pierce as a trade. It's just too old, it's not marketable. We looked to sell it at one point, but we were getting offers of $5,000 or less. To me, the money we're putting into it right now is currently an insurance is basically all we're putting into it. So it's worth having it around as a training piece and contributing that to the county basically for the training center and our
Maybe use it with the cadets?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you want to say anything about the budget lines you're saying?
CCD is one. Now, we've looked at a couple different things to use with CCD on. Right now, your police vehicle lease, I think a third of CCD is used, if I remember correctly, for Another is we budgeted every year for tornado sirens, about $60,000. We have 2 now. Westport Homes will be putting in the 3rd, I believe, down in the Eagles Nest area, which is a requirement of developers. I'll check with Laura and make sure we can get that going. I think that's part of their thing. That'll come to town in tornado siren coverage. Shouldn't be a reason why we have that in our budget. And then there's a couple other different lines that we could use. We can tighten up quite substantially in order for, I mean, this is, you're talking an ISO issue, you know, where the annexations, 2012 annexations are about to go into effect. They go into effect in June and July of 16. Our territory gets larger, and so it's probably a good time to be having this discussion. Now, another thing that Josh hasn't said yet is that these are very hard to find and usually take a long time to build. There's 2 things you all can consider. And we haven't talked to you about this, trying to save money. There's a state statute that's special purchase, that there's a bidding requirement for one way and a non-bidding requirement for another. If it's a special vehicle, and the only one of its kind in existence, that if you don't get it, you don't get it, and then you have to wait a long process. You can use that portion of the statute. If not, you can use the bidding. That likely means we'll push this purchase back to 6 to 8 months. Will we survive 6 to 8 months? Yeah, we'll survive. We've survived thus far, but there's one right now waiting on us. It's kind of been put on hold for us pending these discussions. It's not going to be put on hold forever much longer because Josh told me it's really the only one in the state that's ready to go. So I'm not trying to rush this. He and I have been talking about this for quite some time, looking at budget line items, how to put this in the budget, be frugal with the money that we have. We talked to the redevelopment commission about using TIF to purchase this. They were not. They were more excited about possibly funding or financing a station, so an actual physical building piece of capital as opposed to fire apparatus, which is understandable because to take a bond out through the RDC costs a lot of money. It's cumbersome, it takes time, costs money with bond acquisition and all of that. This would be a better way to do this process. Yes, there is money in the budget. We will eliminate some things that aren't necessarily used at this point, cut back on other items. If you all approve this moving forward.
We would have to come back next month for at least financing resolution.
We will.
But anyway, so.
Correct.
I would make a motion that we approve the fire department purchasing the equipment pending approval by the fire board, that the fire board approve this also.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion that's been seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion passed.
Josh is appointed, right? Yeah.
Moving on to unfinished business. First up is Chief West. Again.
It's kind of like the kid that just got 2 cookies in the cookie jar. We talked about this in the last meeting. In the last meeting we had this, we included town staff vehicles. I have determined that the town does not need any staff vehicles at this point. We can do with what we have and be just fine. So we have an inventory on the town side of Jason's, Lawson's vehicle, my vehicle, which is the Sport Track, and the 2 Ford Focuses, which I think that will be just fine and dandy with those at this point. They will last us for a few more years. Fire department, on the other hand, as you can see through the sheet that Chief Westridge gave you, they have some staff vehicles that are in some pretty serious mechanical decline. 3 to be exact are pretty serious mechanical decline. 1 could be actually transferred to, I think Chief has talked about transferring 1 to the town. So we would get another vehicle, Lauren Bailey, the planning department, could use that, so just be a hand-me-down, should be fine with me. About $35,000 a vehicle times 4, do the math. My whole state math puts that at $140,000 total lease, 7 years. You're getting back up there into the $70,000 a year range for this project. And that would have to be, once again, looking at line items such as something in the fire department budget and something in the town budget, which would, the CCD would be a little bit strained if we used all the CCD on the Quint. So we're going to have to juggle here. This doesn't have to be done quickly. We can certainly look at this. As the budget process goes forward, I'm sure the Chief wouldn't say that we don't want to do it quickly, but these staff vehicles, the Quint, in my opinion, is a much more important piece of apparatus than these staff vehicles are. If he loses a vehicle, I'm glad to hand him the sport track for a while if needed. Or the black Ford Focus. See right that. So this, I think we can have a little more time with this particular item on the agenda. I just want to let you know that the town staff portion of it is being taken off the table. There's absolutely no reason to spend any money on new vehicles. They're sitting out there, I get in and I turn the key and it comes on. And the wheels roll. So that's all we need for now.
So with these fire staff vehicles, I'm just curious, like I understand that Quint is a sort of a special opportunity and, a one-time thing or once in a long time thing. These seem like kind of routine, like why don't these come up in the process of creating a budget?
Why don't they come up in the process of creating a budget?
We're about to approve a budget tonight.
They should come up in the process of approving the budget. So Chief Anderson has a rotating schedule of always having vehicles rotate in and rotate out per a lease agreement. The fire department and the town staff have not had that, so as we started talking about capital improvements this year, we also started talking about long-term needs from a fleet perspective. Everything was fine, and then we determined, we all thought, brainstorming, should we just add vehicles to the police lease right now? After doing search on what we did to the budget process this year, that would put too much strain, in my opinion, on the budget. That's not needed, but Chief Western brought up the fact that his staff vehicles are some of them are on their last legs. Probably can be fixed from time to time with more maintenance going into them, but how long do we do that? So that's why we're having these discussions now. There's always padding in every budget on certain lines that we can save money on, that we don't have to spend, and we can move to other lines if it's needed. I'll be honest with you, we haven't done enough of that research as of tonight for you to make a decision on this, which is why it's a discuss item. We need to really narrow down that research, which we can do in we can actually do it between now and the October 27th meeting, which is the final, I think I put this in an email, but you'll have to hold a special meeting on October 27th to make your final approval of the budget. We can have every single number down, done, and ready for you to consider at that point.
What I'd like to see is something similar to what the police chief has done, when he's done that. Excellent job of rotating vehicles, that we get town admin and fire department on the same thing, where you're replacing one every year kind of a thing. Now, if we purchased 4 this year, what you're looking at, then we're not really ever going to get in that. And I don't want to have a good time, so I don't know if there's so many to move to that.
That would be ideal. Remember, the Tahoes are a little different than, well, the staff, the admin Tahoes probably don't drive a tremendous amount, but they do because they take it home, they're on call. The town vehicles, we should have those for a long time. they shouldn't be driven a tremendous amount of miles. It's a little different. There shouldn't be a rotation process necessarily that's an all 4 or 5 year rotation on those vehicles. I don't know about the fire department staff. They also have to be on call, so they're a little different than the town side. That's the only reason why you would separate the town side from the fire department side. Town vehicles, you can almost buy a vehicle, and it's going to last. Well, the sport track's going to last for 11 years.
Josh, what's your, what do you think, not to take gas, Josh, what's your average, do you think you can get 10 years out of a vehicle, 5 years, what's your estimated rotation? Any idea?
You know, I don't really have any idea because we've always purchased used. There's only one vehicle that was purchased new, and that was by the township back in 2004. So it has lasted this long, but that's the next one to go. We have one completely out of service and one that at any point in time could go. That would be 7705's vehicle that's on that list there.
So by the October special meeting, the 27th, can we have estimated prices for the repair? I mean, he's given us 140. Can we figure out what it costs to replace these?
Absolutely.
And kind of where it's coming from to give us a little better direction with us just getting ready to pass the budget. It would help to know if you think how much will come out of yours versus CCB after the plant and everything else. Is that,
Yeah, absolutely. We can do that, sure.
I don't think the answer is no. I just think we need a little more detail of what kind of vehicles and how much do we really need.
Sounds good.
But we can't have the breakdown on the way over. Somebody will get that.
It happens.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
All right. Next, under unfinished business, we have consideration of approval of a contract for engineering services with GRW for exit 130 interchange.
You had this in front of you last meeting. Councilman Russell asked that we separate the construction inspection services from the contract. You have documents in front of you that there's 2 Appendix Ds. Appendix D is the breakdown of cost. I'll let Dan tell you. Some of the cost has been reduced today, so I'll let him explain those reductions. And then one Appendix D is with construction inspection services, and one is without. It's about $75,000 difference.
The Appendix D breaks down the cost, and what we did is, we've been working on this with Jason and Dax probably the last couple of years. And through working on it, we have met with NDOT and acquired some other things. We've reduced the overall contract about $24,000. There's a couple of things that we no longer need environmental. We do need pavement, it's a bridge analysis that was really added, and a bridge signage design and renderings. And what that is, it's something that we've looked at, and Dax has asked us to do for a sign across the bridge, on the bridge. One of the ideas that we looked at was Harrison, Ohio. If you've ever seen that, driven down towards Cincinnati, they basically have a wrought iron fence that's on the bridge railing, and it spells out Harrison on it. So we're going to look at that. And in order to do that, NDOT's going to require us to do a bridge analysis and structural analysis of that. And so that's what we added. And then, as Dax mentioned, we've got one with the construction observation and one without.
I'll ask one question. The construction administration, what is construction administration?
Construction administration is the design engineers to deal with the contractor during construction. So the design engineers, would be me and a couple other guys on our firm, would answer questions of contractors, hold progress meetings, write change orders, make sure the quantities are correct, things like that.
So that's standard design?
It's standard design. We do that on every contract we've had with you guys.
Okay.
All, actually, most of the clients we do that.
I don't know if I'm digging this on right here. I mean, don't we think that NDOT is going to have to rebuild that bridge before we find out? It's going to be probably longer than it should be, but, you know, for $25,000 just to study the bridge and design it, then plus whatever it is to,
Do it. That could be done away with.
Yeah, we don't have
Probably
to.
just an investigation to see.
yeah.
How much do they, $25,000 to
I
investigate?
agree.
That seems a
Is
little
that
much.
GA?
There are items coming up, there are items,
C and H.
there are items coming up on the agenda that will probably take the place of that particular item. It's not necessary.
I mean, I like the idea, but if the bridge was gonna stay, they're gonna tear it down and start over at some point.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's not a permanent, well, we hope it's not permanent. We hope in the next 5 years that things go on. So yes, it's wise for you. Scratch it.
And Sam, can you just clarify that, as you mentioned, you guys have been working on this project for a long time. Is any of this scope work that you've already done, or have you been paid for the work that you've already done?
We've, actually, almost all of it's done.
Yeah.
We've worked ahead without contract just to get the project moving. And so we're actually turning this into NDOT next month, so we can get approval and get bidding. So we've not, I think we've built a couple things, but we've not been paid. And we knew that, we knew that going in. So we did that at risk because we worked with you guys a long time, so. I know where you live.
Well, and I don't think we'd have gotten NDOT's approval for the temporary repairs had they not done some of this
That's
up
correct.
front.
Absolutely.
We'd have never gotten NDOT's blessing to do the temporary repairs. So,
This is the number one discussed or asked about infrastructure project to my office, by far,
Yeah.
because it affects everybody trying to funnel out of this place and come back in. And we are blessed to have $1.2 million from NDOT. Blessed. And Dan and his staff and team, Jason and I and Steve and his team had everything to do with that, and we thank them. So,
I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and authorize the engineering services contract for GRW for the Exit 130 contract based on the two changes that would make the contract approximately $300,000.
I will second that.
So you're including a construction observation?
Yes.
Which appendix?
Pardon me?
Which appendix?
The one with the
The
observation.
one with the observation.
With the construction observation?
Yes.
I prefer to have it up front, do the observation.
Motion's on the
So,
table.
motion's on the table, discussion,
Yeah,
right?
we got a motion on the table, it's been seconded.
So the question I have is, what, were we to do the construction observation with another firm, what would the process be? We need to bid that, would the price be comparable to this?
well, we don't know. I'm going to tell you historically, it's going to be about the same.
Yeah.
All you're doing is taking away your design firm and putting in somebody else to oversee what they've designed and what the contractors are doing from an inspection perspective. There are two different trains of thought on this. We could do an RFQ and find out that somebody comes in at $40,000 just to get their foot in the door and doing a project here. That would be great for us all, okay? And that's what the process is. You send out an RFQ, and engineering firms will send you the information back for construction inspection services. The other advantage is a lot of people will say, well, if the same firm that designed it is doing the inspection, then the inmates are running the asylum at that point. That's what some people will say, who's watching who. There are also some people that say that the firm that designed it, shouldn't they be the ones that are inspecting their own design? So there are many different ways to think about this. The one way that I would think about it is if an RFQ comes back, and nothing against Dan and his staff, and it's somebody said, hey, we'll do that for 40,000. Well, obviously we have the answer, right? If we don't do that RFQ, we would never know. So those are the pros and cons of it.
Just because it's a lower price doesn't mean it's a better option.
Just because it's a lower price does not mean it's a better option going to get us a better product. That's correct.
Well, and secondly, that had we not moved forward and Dan taken the opportunity to get us in front of NDOT, we wouldn't be here right now, and we wouldn't have an interchange meeting.
Sure, that doesn't have anything to do with the question at hand, though.
Sure,
The
yes,
observation services, that's a very specific line that we didn't decide the best way to get it done. The question I have though is this is very basic, like show my ignorance of the construction process. What's the difference between construction administration and construction observation if the same firm is doing it?
Yeah, I'll let him answer, but I can answer as well. And he's already answered one.
Well, the construction admin is the design engineers doing the progress meetings, running the project from the office, making sure the contractor's doing the project correctly, working
That's under
together.
inspection, making sure the contractor's doing the project.
Yes, but you need two. You need a guy out there, and you also need the design engineers to work in tandem with the inspector so that they're doing the right thing, and the quantities are correct, and they're paying the contractor correctly. One of the things I might add on the, whether you do an RFQ, and that's up to you guys, I guess we're at a little bit of a disadvantage here now that we've given you a number. Anybody can come in at $74.99, so. And I will also add,